Welcome to episode 584 of Salsidoparanormal. I'm your host, James Salcido, and tonight we are continuing our review of Orpheus, Mythos of the World by Padraic. And continuing on with more mythology. You can always find all episodes of the show along with links to social media at the podcast page, and that is salsidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or accounts of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Excuse me. Thank you all for being here and listening, whether you are here for the live streams on Discord or if you listen to the podcast or YouTube feed, or on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of the show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Troubled Minds Radio comes on. And as always, I want to thank Michael Strange, host of Troubled Minds Radio, for having me on the network and putting all my shows up there. If you'd like to support the show, there are some different ways to do that. You can always share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. You can also find books I've written over on Amazon, paranormal fiction and nonfiction. And there'll be another one up there hopefully soon, within the next few months. Also, you can sign up for the Patreon, where as of now I am putting out 1 extra episode of the show per week of true paranormal stories from the web. And of course, you can always just make one-time donations through PayPal. Support is never expected, but it's always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows and the books associated with them, as there will be a series at some point. From equipment to research materials to travel expenses in some cases. So I think that covers all of that. And again, this is a summary that has been generated by AI. Well, it's a series of summaries. Basically, each chapter I put into an AI and have it summarized. And then I read the summaries out loud, and that's how we cover these books without reading them completely, because that would take a lot more time. I was just thinking about that now, and my gosh, we'd still probably be in the middle of the complete books of Charles Fort if we had to read through it all, word by word. That'd be a lot. So I think that's one of the good things about having AI in that case, is to summarize things. That's definitely what I use it for the most part. And and that's, of course, this book is about mythology. It does touch on different religions around the world as well, but just keep in mind this is a sort of a historical look at these things. And of course, the views of the author and myself may not be the same. So we will get to those when we get there. And when that happens, I'll let y'all know, and we'll go from there. We left off last time with we finished the section on Egypt, and now we are moving on to Babylonian myths. This section is called "In the Beginning." Let's see. I think it's just "In the Beginning." So, and these again are summaries of the actual mythologies. So they read sort of like stories in some cases here. So the summary says, "In the beginning, there was only Apsu, the primeval, and Tiamat, which is chaos," in parentheses there. "The waters were not separated, and there was no earth. Nothing had names or ordained destinies. The gods came into existence. First, Lakmu, I'm not sure about that, and Lakhamu. Then after, and of course I forgot to mention, I am going to, excuse me, unintentionally mispronounce everything. So I apologize for that. It's just, there's so many names in here that are difficult to say. Then after ages passed, Anshar and Kishar, and finally Ea, Anu, and Bel. The gods considered how to separate the waters, create the earth, uh, and give names and destinies. This made Tiamat's realm smaller, causing her and Apsu to hate the gods and plot their destruction. Tiamat roused up ancient monsters and spawned new monsters to destroy the gods. The gods were afraid when their realm shook. Another sent, Anshar sent his son Anu to appease Tiamat, but seeing her monsters, Anu's heart failed him, and he turned back. The gods were filled with fear at his countenance. Ea was then sent, but he too was frightened by Tiamat's monsters and turned back. The gods were afraid, and the lesser gods wailed, not understanding Tiamat's hatred. Marduk volunteered to be the gods' champion if they decreed his actions could not be altered and his words never changed. The gods agreed and bestowed a scepter, throne, ring, and weapons upon Marduk. Tiamat raged, clothing her monsters in terror and splendor. She gave them invincible weapons and poison for blood. Marduk went forth in his chariot with lightning, thunderbolt, bow, and spear, followed by the 7 winds he created and the other gods. Pretty amazing when you think about this, just stopping real quick, that all these are just beings of incredible power based on what we've heard so far, and yet there's still this fear among so many of them, and not to mention war and all that. Going back to the summary here, Marduk let loose the evil wind into Tiamat's mouth, drove his spear through her heart, and took the monsters in his net. He trampled. Now, this is getting a little bit graphic, but just keep in mind this is sort of mythology, and think of it as more, I don't know, almost like cartoons, in that we don't have to think about the details too much if we don't want to. Trampled the body, making the heavens from half and the earth from the other half. Marduk divided creation between Anu, Bel, and Ea, the heavens, earth, and abyss. He fixed the stars, moon, and seasons in their places. Marduk then devised to make man from his blood and bone, so the god's service would never fail. And so man began to live on earth. So that's the end of that first one there. Quite the epic creation and sort of war mythology there, and all sort of wrapped into one thing. So let me see, go in the chat here. Hello everyone, I see you there. Derek in the chat says, I'd love to go back, see if they really meant literally. Yes, exactly. Waters, if something is getting lost in translation, I think that's definitely possible, like aethers or something. I love the weird water stuff, obviously, but still. Yeah, and I wonder and I think I've heard this before, it suggested that a lot of these, and that's why I sort of put out there the idea of don't focus too much on like the more violent aspects as being gory and everything else like that, because I mean, I think in a lot of cases we're talking about, first of all, these massive figures, these giants and just gods that have so much power and are not quite They're human-like in some ways, but then very much not so much in others. So I mean, I've even seen here and there cartoons made out of this, and there's movies and all these things. So if it helps just to helps to sort of not get too grossed out, because some of these things do get graphic. Some myths do get pretty graphic, and that's one thing I never have cared for them. Um, but if you just try to sort of move past that, and they're still really interesting. So anyway, going on to the next section here of Babylonian myth, and that is one that I'm sure a lot of people have heard of, which is Gilgamesh. So this one says Gilgamesh, king of Erech, Erech, went to the temple where his mother, Ninsunna, Ninsunna, dwelt. She told him that because he was 2/3 god and 1/3 man, he was restless, but still must die and go to the house of dust, ruled by goddess Irkalla, Irkalla. I think it's, yeah, is that it? Yeah, it's L. Okay. It says Gilgamesh did mighty works in Erech, building thick, high walls, tall towers, and great ships. The people groaned under the labors and prayed to the gods. The gods decided to create Enkidu, one mightier than Gilgamesh, to humble him. Goddess Aruru, Aruru, made Enkidu from clay, covered in hair, to live in the wild. Gilgamesh went to war against Humbaba, Humbaba, in the cedar forest. His soldiers were awed and fearful. They slew Humbaba, but did not see Enkidu, who lived there. A young hunter found his pits filled and nets torn by Enkidu. His father advised getting a temple woman to seduce Enkidu away from the wild. Ishtar the goddess appeared to Gilgamesh, wanting him as her lover. Of course, this gets into some different themes here. But he rejected her, saying her love destroys men. So there's a lot of not so nice, not very fair treatment of women in mythology. Just in case anyone wasn't aware already, seems anyway. In wrath, Ishtar sent a fire-breathing bull against Erech. The hunter brought the temple woman, who unveiled herself to Enkidu. He was amazed and went with her, but after 6 days returned to the wild beasts, who now fled from him. Enkidu, shamed, returned to the woman, who led him to Erech. There the bull was destroying people, until Enkidu and Gilgamesh together slew it. They became great friends, living and hunting together. But Enkidu dreamt of the underworld and fell deathly ill. After 12 days, he died as Gilgamesh mourned. Gilgamesh, fearing death, decided to seek out his ancestor, Utanapishtim, the remote, the only one who had escaped death. And that's the end of that section there. The one thing that this summary doesn't cover here is that the two of those, Gilgamesh and Enkidu, wrestled at some point, and that's part of how they sort of gained respect for each other as well, if I'm not mistaken. So, just because they were sort of more equals than the rest of ordinary people. So, So yeah, looking at the chat here, Derek says Derek is going with the AI art, which is pretty epic, as you would expect with mythology. And yeah, so if you ever want to hear the show live in Discord, I would definitely recommend it, because sometimes you might get some images along with the audio if you're watching the chat there. So, but yeah, it's pretty wild how that works. It seems very fitting, and it's just amazing how the detail. My gosh. But anyway, let me see here. I think we still have time for one more section, probably, and then we'll probably stop. Let me just find my spot again. I lost this. Okay, so the next section is the story of Uta-Napishtim and of the deluge that destroyed all that was on the earth. This is another thing that's going to pop up, or at least that does pop up in so many parts of the world. Is this mentioning in mythology and folklore and just ancient records, whether it's oral traditions or whatever, this mentioning of a flood that destroyed basically nearly everything. So this section says, in the temple were tables with the history of Utanapishtim, the remote, made immortal by the gods. The tables contained his own words. Utanapishtim lived in Shuripak, Shurippak, an old city where the gods dwelt. The gods decided to destroy mankind by wind and flood, but reconsidered and chose to save Utanapishtim and his family. Sounds a bit almost like Noah and his ark from other religious and mythological texts. The god Ea, I think it was Ea, I've heard on other shows, told Utanapishtim in a dream to build a ship of certain dimensions, abandon his possessions, and save his life. Ea said to trust the ship on the flood and sail to the gods. Though mocked, Utanapishtim built the ship, loaded it with grain, and took his family and animals, there you go, another similarity there, on board in pairs. The god Shamash, Shamash, signaled a great flood would come at evening. Darkness and storms came. Star gods brandished torches. Rains lasted 6 days and nights, until even the gods were frightened. Ishtar lamented, and the gods wailed. After the 7th day, the flood ceased. The land was flattened, and mankind turned to mud. The ship rested on Mount Nisir, Nisir, for 12 days. Utanapishtim sent out a dove, swallow, and raven. The raven did not return. He made sacrifices. Ishtar appeared, cursing Bel for the flood. That's ironic in a way. You have these basically entities showing up and be like, dang it, this other one did this and that. And I think I've heard that before in other ones as well. Sort of these relationships between all the different entities. Bel was angry Eni had survived, but Enurta, En-Urta, pleaded for mankind, and Bel relented. Ea blessed Utanapishtim and his wife with immortality, like the gods. Gilgamesh asked how to find Utanapishtim beyond Mount Mashu, Mashu. Battling lions, he reached the mountain guards. mountain guarded by terrifying scorpion men. That's quite the term there. There's probably a different name for it. The summary did not pick it up. But these scorpion men saw Gilgamesh was 2/3 God, so did not kill him, but warned that the way ahead was darkness no mortal had traversed. Gilgamesh entered the darkness. After a day and night of deep darkness, Gilgamesh reached the garden of goddess Siduri Sabitu, Siduri-Sabitu, with the tree of the gods. She barred his way. Gilgamesh explained his quest to find Utanapishtim and escape death. Siduri Sabitu said only the sun god had crossed the waters of death. But the ferrymen, isn't that funny? There's another one of these figures in other mythology as well. Shanabi, Ur-Shanabi, might take him. This ferryman ferried Gilgamesh 50 days across the waters of death to Utanapishtim, Utanapishtim's land. And says Utanapishtim said, "None may know their death day." I like that phrase there. As Gilgamesh slept 7 days, Utanapishtim said a plant on the sea bottom could make him immortal, and sent him back with the ferryman. Gilgamesh dove for the plant, but left it on shore. A serpent ate it, leaving him without escape from death. Enkidu's spirit appeared and spoke of the land of the dead. And that's where that section ends. So I think they're going to stop there. So much there to cover. I mean, probably too much. Just amazing references there. But yeah, let me see here. Looking at the chat again. And so let me look at this. So Matt Salhill there in the chat. Enkidu was described as a monster. Yeah. Then Derek says, God's communicating via dreams, telling someone to build something. Sounds familiar. Yeah. Yeah, Matt Salhill talks about how the Gilgamesh didn't care about the lions. Yeah. Yeah, he was so big that lions were like small cats to him. Really amazing. All the references to, again, I think we're going to see this more, and probably not just through this book, but through future mythology books. I'll keep finding other ones that we can check out, and we'll come back to this from time to time. But we're going to see these repeating patterns. I think the more we dig into this, the more we dig into mythology in general, these cycles and similarities and all these things that they talk about these entities known as gods and how they've sort of mixed with people so that some people have abilities that other people don't, supposedly. You have the whole connection to death and life and death and the underworld, which seems to be a different name for some kind of a land of sort of like an afterlife, but also that it's said to exist in some mythologies under the ground. So, but anyway, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you all again for listening, and I will talk to you all in the next episode of Salsidoparanormal. Take care.